Your kid is writing a care manual. They didn't announce it. They didn't ask permission. They started the day they watched you roll your eyes at your mom's third FaceTime in 2 days. Didn't say a word, just kept eating their cereal. 6 moments your kid is silently recording, including one that teaches them love has an expiration date, that decides whether they show up for you one day or quietly decide showing up is someone else's job. 1. The one that happens before you even say hello. Your mom calls during dinner. You pick up, but your shoulders drop before you say hello. You do the voice, that slightly louder, slightly slower version of yourself that only exists during phone calls where you're performing tolerance instead of offering it. Your voice says, "Hi, Mom." Your shoulders say, "A formal complaint has been lodged." Your kid isn't listening to the words. They're reading the gap between how you sound when your friend calls and how you sound when your mom calls. Your teenager isn't multitasking during that phone call. They're collecting. They heard, "Okay, Mom," 4 times in 90 seconds. They clocked the exhale. They watched you mutter something to the ceiling. None of that was aimed at them, which is exactly why they trust it every second. Lessons that aren't lessons land harder. When you sit your teenager down and say, "Family is important," they hear a speech. When they watch you silently dread a visit to your dad's apartment, they hear a policy. One gets evaluated, the other gets installed. And there's one moment later in this video, not this one, that most parents assume is private. It isn't. And it's the page that decides the whole thing. 2. The thing they're clocking that has nothing to do with grandma. Your kid has noticed something you probably haven't. One of your parents get grace. The other gets efficiency. Maybe your dad tells the same fishing story for the 4th straight Thanksgiving in a row, and you lean back like it's fresh material. Meanwhile, your mom asks one follow-up question about your schedule, and your entire jaw reconfigures. The audacity of someone who loves you asking for things. Children don't measure your values by what you tolerate once. They measure them by who gets your softness when you're tired. Your kid has mapped which parent you move toward and which one you manage, which one gets your real face, and which one gets the version that costs them nothing. And the theory they're building has nothing to do with grandma or grandpa. Patience is a resource that gets rationed or withdrawn from the people who tire you out. By the time they're 30, that theory will be running in their marriage, their friendships, their office. The asymmetry you modeled at Thanksgiving becomes the default setting they carry into every relationship where one person gives more energy than the other. But the lesson they remember longest isn't the one you say out loud. And the next one isn't something you said at all. 3. The 7 words that outlive the conversation. Your dad asked the same question twice in 10 minutes. Your mom needed help unlocking her phone again. She accidentally deleted her contacts because apparently every family has an IT support person who didn't apply for the job. And you said something, maybe to your partner after they left, maybe under your breath, but not far enough under it. She can't figure out her own iPad. He's getting worse. Honestly, it's exhausting. Your kid doesn't have the context. They don't know about the complicated history. The fatigue that comes from watching someone you love become someone who needs you differently. They just heard you describe a person's decline like it was an inconvenience. Yale researcher Becca Levy tracked 660 people over 50 for more than 2 decades. The ones who associated aging with something other than being a burden lived an average of 7.5 years longer, larger than the effect of low blood pressure, regular exercise, or not smoking. Those beliefs don't stay as thoughts. They start shaping how people live. Your kid is forming those beliefs in your kitchen. Every time weakness gets met with tenderness, they file it one way. Every time it gets met with a punchline, they file it another. together. One day, they'll watch you struggle with something you used to do easily. Whether they lean in or look away depends on which file got heavier. But named weakness is only half of what they're recording. The other half is what they see when you think nobody's watching at all. 4. The part you thought was invisible. Sunday visit. You packed the car, you drove 45 minutes, you brought flowers. Gold star adult child behavior, the whole production, and your kids saw every part of it, including the part you thought was invisible. The sigh before you put your shoes on, the energy audit in the driveway before going inside, the look you gave your partner in the rear view mirror, the one that said, "Here we go." Kids can tell the difference between showing up because you want to and showing up because guilt sent a calendar invite and obligation wrote the RSVP. They recognize the obligation face, love and resentment, doing an impression of each other. And the data point they collect isn't, "My parent visits grandma." It's this: family is something you survive, not something you choose. One day, when you are the difficult visit, that sentence may come back wearing their face. What they're actually watching is whether you stay involved after the decision gets made, whether the phone calls have warmth in them or just check boxes. The difference between, "We found a great place for Grandpa," and "We handled the Grandpa situation," is a word choice your kid remembers for 30 years. The private moment's still coming, and your kid is already in position to hear it. 5. The moment they found out what you do when love gets difficult. Your mom crossed a line, said something about how you're raising your kids, and you had a choice: hold the boundary or hold a grudge. Your kid was watching to see which one you picked. Here's what they learned. There are 2 ways to disagree with someone you love, and the one you choose tells them everything about what happens when they disagree with you. Because there's a version of disagreement that keeps the relationship. You say what you need to say, you stay firm. You don't fold, but you also don't demolish. The call ends, and nobody lost their personhood. And then there's the other version, the cold shoulder that lasts through Christmas, the punishment withdrawal, the, "Well, that's just how she is," delivered with a tone that closes the door and bolts it, the relationship equivalent of burning the bridge, then complaining about the traffic. One version teaches them that conflict has an exit that isn't a funeral. The other teaches them that disagreement costs connection, that one wrong opinion and the warmth evaporates, which, by the way, is the same conclusion they draw when you do it to them. They just didn't know you'd been practicing on someone else first. Every argument they've ever watched you have with your parents was a dress rehearsal. They had a front row seat, and they were taking notes on the ending. Silverstein called this moral capital, the sense of responsibility that builds quietly through watching and shows up decades later when you need it most. You're depositing or withdrawing every time you fight fair with your own parents. And then one day, nobody warned you about this part. They open the manual. 6. The one that makes them wonder if there's a version with their name on it. Your kid is a lie detector you accidentally installed in your house. It's free, always on, and emotionally inconvenient. They're in the next room, or pretending to do homework with the door half open, or scrolling with one earbud in, the other ear pointed at the kitchen, and you're venting to your partner about your parents. "I can't keep doing this every weekend. She's impossible. He doesn't even try anymore." You think it's a private adult conversation. Your kid thinks it's the real version. Because kids already know parents have a public mode and a private mode. They've seen the switch flip. So when they hear you talk about your parents behind their back, they don't hear venting. They hear the unfiltered truth about what family means when nobody's performing. And here's the part that lands hardest. They're already wondering if there's a version with their name attached. Not hypothetically, right now, tonight. They're listening to you describe someone who needs more than you want to give, and quietly asking themselves if that's what they are too. Every private complaint becomes a line in the manual. This is what people really think about the older generation once they can't keep up anymore. But when you say something like, your grandpa drove me crazy today, and I love him, and I don't know how to do this perfectly, your kid hears something different. They hear that love and frustration can exist in the same sentence without one canceling the other. That caring for family is hard and still worth doing. One conversation behind their back. That's all it takes to decide which version of the manual gets written. The manual opens. One day, your kid will be the adult standing in a hallway deciding how much of their Saturday to give you. Their own family pulling at them in 3 directions. A daughter whose soccer game starts in an hour, and they won't consult a parenting book. They'll open the manual. And the worst part is, they won't know they're opening it. They think they're making a normal decision, the kind adults make every day about how much they owe the people who raised them, the one they've been writing since they were 12. What's in it was never a lesson you sat them down to teach. It was the phone call you took when you were exhausted, the visit that wasn't mandatory but happened anyway, the time you disagreed with your mother without dismantling her, the afternoon you asked your dad to tell you the story again instead of waving it off, the fact that you complained about the drive and still made it every Sunday. The manual doesn't need to be perfect. It needs you to be present. Your parents drove you up the wall sometimes. Your kids saw it. They also saw you show up anyway. And that, the showing up, even when it cost you something, is the line that actually runs when the manual opens. Your kid is collecting evidence right now. The answer you're living, not the one you'd given a speech, is the one they carry forward. That's what This Is How Kids Learn They're Only Tolerated is about. It starts with a sheep named Gerald. Watch that next.